Shalom, shalom, everybody. Blessed day to all my brothers and sisters out there on the YouTube streets. Got a good video for you guys today for Polygyny by the Bible Part 9. And I want to apologize. I did a short the other day, and I have no clue what happened to the audio. But thank the Father, the message got out there about the dry fast next Friday. So without further ado, we actually got two articles today. Forgot in part 8 I was supposed to cover two articles, but we're going to get into it now. The very first one is polygyny and child upbringing. Now I thought this was an interesting one with some good points here. I thought this was an interesting paper. Just make sure the screen is sharing good. It looks pretty clear. Now it says polygyny and child upbringing, a case study of MGBOM community in a Fikbo, North Local Government Area of Ebony State. Clearly, this is a foreign paper, a research project presented to the Department of Sociology, Psychology, Criminology, and Security Studies, Faculty of Management and Social Science, Federal University, in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the award of Bachelor of Science. Now we're going to read the abstract. Polygyny, a man having more than one wife, is still practiced in many parts of Africa and Asia today. That's interesting. When you talk to anybody in Asia, they're like, oh, well, I just can't do polygyny. Remember in part 1 through 4, I mentioned Genghis Khan. If not, I'm mentioning Genghis Khan right now. Genghis Khan was a serial polygynist. It said every 1 in 16 person on the earth or in Asia, I can't remember the statistic, has DNA from Genghis Khan. So when they say, well, a man can't get it up, man, they get it up. They get it in if they have the ability to. But it goes to what I was talking about a few parts ago, where when we're talking about kingdoms, this stuff was used to unify kingdoms, nations. It was used to show partnership and to actually build alliances. A king marrying a daughter of another nation or something. So if we're diving back in here today, and has often raised concern from government and other social actors. So this has always been a state issue because the government wants to remain in power. Other social actors are those most likely of the church sense, because they're always thinking about power. Remember the power that's in have a man having a polygynous family. Remember what we read in Exodus 1 and what we've been studying for the past 2 weeks. Building a nation, building a man's house. This is how Israel became an even greater nation than Egypt. This is how Israel always overshadowed our captors. This research is concerned with polygyny and child upbringing, with emphasis on the Imam community in the Afikpo, I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but bear with me, North Local Government Area. To achieve the objectives of the study, 3 theses were formulated and relative literatures reviewed. Out of the 3 theories reviewed, the study has anchored on social learning theory. A sample size of 140 respondents was selected using simple random sampling technique. The research made use of survey research design data were collected using questionnaire, and the data collected were presented using frequency distribution percentage table and analyzed using chi-square, which is X2 statistic method. Hence, the findings of the study reveal that children raised in polygynous families are disposed to violence. that polygyny gives room for deprivation of emotional bond, and that polygyny influences provision of the child's basic needs. So polygyny is a fossil of a bygone dispensation that has no place in the new era, the era of human rights. It was recommended that family orientation programs should be set up through seminars and mass media and other to enlighten individuals in the social dangers of indulging in a polygynous union. Now, why is this article so darn important? I found it so interesting because from what we've been looking at from the Bible and other papers, and I got a really good one for part 10. It's interesting because look at the links that they go to put down polygyny when the majority of the world was made through a polygynous union. I mean, everybody wants to go back to Adam and Eve and call that the creation ideal. But truly, the creation ideal is that a woman is covered, protected, and a man is in authority, doing what the Father called him to do. And the paper that we looked at yesterday, how Rome started off in monogamy, but was actually secretly polygynous. Um, even within that paper, it talked about that there were a lot of bastard children from Romans that were not mentioned in the history books, most likely because they were trying to save face. Rome always wanted to be remembered as the greatest nation. But look at the links that they go to in comparison to our other studies in this series. So I thought this was a fun. I thought this is a funny little article. Naturally, this will be linked in the comment section that you guys can go read and have a laugh at the links that they go to try to put down polygyny when this world has really been founded on it. So we're going to get into the second one here, the second article we have here, and it's called "The Economics of Polygyny." So give me a moment. Just try to zoom in as best I can. Hold on, that's way too much. Yeah, it zoomed in a heck of a lot, but it's good, I guess. Now, see this was done in '94. Oh, wow, it's the actual book. So forgive me, it might not be as clear, but again, the link to this paper, to these two papers, are going to be in the comment section just after this video ends. So just bear with me on that. So it reads: Gary Becker devotes a chapter of his treatise on the family to polygamy and monogamy in marriage markets. The inclusion of polygamy in his analysis is more than an intriguing curiosum. Curiosum. Although overt polygamy is rare in our society, right, in Western society, it is very common mode of family organization around the world. Amen. Of 1,170 societies recorded in Murdoch's ethnographic atlas, polygyny, some men having more than one wife, is prevalent in 850, and that's over half. Hartog in 1982. Moreover, our society is far from completely monogamous. About one fourth, that's a quarter of all children born in the United States in 1990 were born to unmarried mothers who were not cohabitating with the fathers. Even though, excuse me, even though simultaneous marriages to multiple partners are not officially recognized. So just because they don't recognize them doesn't mean that it's not happening. Okay. And another article we covered in part 7, where we sat down and we looked at that, and an excerpt actually coined that as well. where we sat down and we spoke about that. I spoke about that. Most of the women out here are already polygynous anyway. Multiple babies by the same man, so it's already being done. It's just not recognized by the state, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need your marriage recognized by the state to be able to do what God called you to do. I mean, shoot, half the churches out here have 501c3s, which are tax exempt, and they don't even pay their doggone bills, but they're pulling in thousands of dollars a month. So let's get back in here. 1990 with fathers, even though the simultaneous marriage, okay, even though the simultaneous marriages to multiple partners are not officially recognized, divorce and remarriage leads to a common pattern of serial polygamy, in which males remarry more frequently than females and are more likely than females to have children by more than one spouse. This paper concerns the economics of polygynous societies with well functioning markets for marriage partners. The institutions that we model appear to be particularly close to those found in the polygynous societies of Africa. Now, I want to stop right there. Notice a lot of these places they keep referencing Africa. It is said that during the scattering, the 10 tribes of Israel, 10 of the tribes went into Africa. And we can only imagine if that statement is true. With the transatlantic slave trade, you have Israel being spread not only to the Americas, but they went to Spain first. The transatlantic slave trade went to Spain first. So you had Negroes and Negroes in Spain. Then you had Negroes in America, and then you had Negroes expand out to the world. You know, slavery wasn't just limited to America. It's just America wants to tell you to forget about it. But right here, where it says where polygyny is the norm. In the countries of the Sahel region of Africa, the percentage of women living in polygynous households ranges from 45% to 55% in West Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa. These percentages are mostly in the range from 25% to 35%. In Southern Africa, polygyny is less common, just under 10% of women living in polygynous households. Now, these are all households where it's one man, multiple women, right? Descriptions of these institutions can be found in Goody and in Cooper. Most polygynous societies have positive prices for brides. In the polygynous societies of Africa, these prices, which anthropologists call bride wealth, are typically paid to the bride's male relatives rather than to the bride. According to Jack Goody, bride wealth is not to be consumed in the course of the celebration, nor is it handed to the wife. It is given to the bride's male kin, typically brothers, in order that they can themselves take a wife. It's given on themselves to take a wife. So it's basically like a barter system. Hey, I want to take your sister to be my wife. Yeah, her dowry is going to be XYZ and the cow. Okay, I'll give you XYZ and the cow. Okay, good. You may go ahead and take my sister. Now I can go out and pay a dowry for my own wife. It's washing hands, washing hands. See, dowry, in contrast to bride wealth, is a payment from the bride's relatives. But according to Goody, dowry is not the reverse of bride wealth. Dowry typically goes directly to the newly married couple rather than to the relatives of the groom. Africa got it backwards then. Consisting, as Goody suggests, so that's the excerpt from that part right there. See, we're looking on time. All right, looking pretty good on time. A type of pre-mortem inheritance to the bride. Goody distinguishes bride wealth from indirect dowry, which is the payment from the groom's family to the newly wed couple rather than to the bride's male relatives. Goody reports that in polygynous African societies, payment at the time of marriage normally take the form of bride wealth rather than of indirect dowry. In human societies, males who inherit economic wealth from parents or other relatives can increase their reproductive success substantially by acquiring additional wives. Ah, the old science try, huh? Mistresses or concubines for females. Concubines. For females, on the other hand, an extra husband adds little to her lifetime fertility. Once a female has achieved moderate prosperity, additional wealth does little to relax the biological constraints on the number of offspring she can have. Therefore, we can expect that that in an economy with well-functioning markets for marital partners, where parents distribute inheritance and the bride wealth of their daughters in such a way as to maximize the number of their surviving grandchildren. We would expect there to be polygyny rather than polyandry, and we would expect brides to command a positive price. We would further expect to see parents leave their inheritances, including the bride wealth, received for their daughters predominantly to their sons rather than to their daughters. According to Goody, 1973, and Cooper, 1981, most of the polygynous societies of Africa fit this description. And another pretty good article to dive in here. So, what we're going to hop over to now is our scripture for the day, and it comes from Second Chronicles 13, 21 and 22. Let's make sure we're sharing effectively. Yep, sharing effectively. And we are talking about some people would call it a biha. I just say a abijah. And it says, but Abijah waxed mighty and married 14 wives and begat 20 and 2 sons and 16 daughters. The father multiplied him greatly. Verse 22. And the rest of the acts of Abijah and his ways and his sayings are written in the story of the prophet Iddo. Wow. Wow. Another polygynist of the Bible. The woman doesn't seem like the Lord is stricken down. So God must be okay with polygyny, right? He must not have a problem with it if if he's allowing it. 14 sons, 14 daughters. But anyway, let's get into the excerpt here. This excerpt comes from the Great Omission. The link will be in the comment section along with the articles and the scripture for the day. And this is Adriana Blake, and she's an attorney. It says men manage to kill themselves off in record numbers. What nature does not take care of, men do to themselves. It isn't just global war that does it, although war makes a significant contribution. Men seem to have to war with their environment and with each other. Each and every year in the United States, more young men die on the highway than were killed during all the Vietnam War. There are wars in the streets of our cities for control of drug traffic or gang territory. If males don't kill themselves on the streets or on the highways, they are engaged in high risk occupations or they seek high risk recreation activities. By the early years of marriage selection process, we have reached a state where for every 100 females, at least 30 will never marry. Now that's crazy. That is crazy. Crazy statistic. Now, keep in mind, this is from 2000. These statistics are from 2000, about 24 years ago, 25 years ago. Let's see, will never marry or will be second wives of men who have been married before. So it's much more the latter. They'll be second wives. So it's polygynous anyway. As we talked about yesterday, was talking about some of those statistics in polygyny, that America is already polygynous. They do it in a much slower way by allowing divorce and remarriage. But we know God isn't that way. These husbands often have other families to support, families that have been left behind. The problem is exacerbated as demonstrated by mortality rates shortly after birth. Within the first 28 days after birth, about 25% more males than females die. The higher ratio of male to female deaths continues throughout life. The factors involved in these different morality figures obviously reflect inherent physiological sex differences. I would argue against that last part, simply because sex trafficking is a thing in America. So even if the males don't die in America, or even if the females don't die that often at childbirth, there is a much higher chance that they will end up being sex trafficked. And that's not me wishing bad on anybody. It's just the reality of it, that they'll end up being sex trafficked at some point, or touched inappropriately, especially with what's going on today with America and allowing grown men dressed as women to enter a female's bathroom. They're practically opening the floodgates for pedophilia, and that was something that was predicted a few years ago. That this whole LGBT thing 10 years ago, they're just trying to make way for pedophiles, and that's what we're seeing happen. Mentally ill people are being allowed to mix with normal people. And back when I was growing up, those people would be in a special class, away from everybody else. They wouldn't be allowed to be with everybody else. So I will be back in a few hours, everybody, for part 10. I pray this bless you all as much as it blessed me to put it out here for you guys. I pray the spirit of truth touched you all in this information. And also that you guys do go check out the two papers. Nonetheless, they are interesting reads. They're interesting reads nonetheless. So shalom, shalom, everybody. Shalom, shalom, my brothers and sisters. I will see you all shortly.